Divorce TV again, welcome to the show. And we have our expert in co-parenting and parenting generally, Rosalind Sedacca, over from the USA. And we have a shared story with Tom. It's an Easter story today. And we'll finish with a healing with Debbie Talalay. But let's get on with the news. Joe Exotic's husband, this is in Pink News, Dylan Passage, has announced that he and the Tiger King have filed for divorce. Passage 24 stayed faithful to his 58-year-old husband even after Exotic was jailed for a multitude of animal abuses and a plot to kill his nemesis, Carol Baskin. I haven't watched the show, so I have no idea what any of this is about. But a year after Netflix's smash hit Tiger King, and with no presidential pardon on the horizon, Passage confirmed that they are now seeking a separation. To answer the main question the public wants to know, yes, Joe and I are seeking a divorce, he wrote on Instagram. This wasn't an easy decision to make, but Joe and I both understand that this situation isn't fair to either of us. It's something that neither of us were expecting, but we are going to take it day by day. We are on good terms still, and I hope it can stay that way. I will continue to have Joe in my life and do my best to support him while he undergoes further legal battles to better his situation. Like I said in my last post, be careful of the assumptions you place on others. Everyone carries a challenge or burden you may not see. This is as true for me as it may be for you. The bartender added that he has always stood by Joe's side and will continue to always love and support him, but admitted he is struggling with the attention and scrutiny that came with the documentary. I don't feel obligated to explain to the world what occurs in my personal life, and despite Joe taking to social media to air every grievance, I don't feel it's the healthiest way to handle private matters between two people. I therefore don't intend to post any more on this subject. He sounds so sensible. I wish all husbands who were divorcing were like him. Joe Exotic's lawyer, John Phillips, said on Twitter that their law firm is reviewing options with him regarding separation and divorce. Joe Exotic's story is due to be explored further in an upcoming BBC documentary with Louis Theroux on the 5th of April. Moving forward to Elle magazine. Talking about the other side of Indian matchmaking, the Indian divorce. So, what you don't see after a perfect union on Netflix again, on their reality dating series, is the lonely Indian divorce. This is written an article by Shibani Joshi. And Shibani says, a copy of my marriage vows hung in the bathroom of my marital home. These 7 promises were tied to the 7 steps I took with my husband around a sacred fire as hundreds watched at our Hindu wedding in San Diego in 2006. By Indian matchmaking standards, our biodata, education levels, religion, even height as a couple was almost perfect. Over the course of my decade-long marriage, my father made several copies of our vows for us. That's nice of him. I would grade myself on each vow, a test to determine my marriage's fate. I aced promises like sharing our possessions, but gave myself an F at promising to live with me for our entire lives. How could this happen to a couple that had checked all the culturally valued boxes? She says in the article that divorce would mean not only disappointing my parents, but also by being the first to break my ancestors' perfect marital record. India has one of the lowest divorce rates in the world, and divorce can bring shame to families and to women in particular. I worried over what our community would think and whether I would still have a place in it afterwards. Netflix doesn't show this part of Indian customs. Our marriage worked while we balanced our powerful careers in private equity and TV broadcasting in New York. We were too busy to address our differences, believing our shared culture, career aspirations, and religion were enough. Child rearing added many more responsibilities for me as I managed routines and bottle times while working. Email replies to my husband asking for help increasingly read, I can't. Can you handle it? Yes, I could, but I didn't want to. But I can't get divorced, she says. I reminded myself I'm Indian. The lack of Google results on Indian divorce reinforced this belief. Why do the divorcees and their tails disappear? I wondered, is this my fate? My divorce threatened a separation with not just my husband, but also my parents and culture. I did not see my parents for a year. My father declared that he would not enter a home where the man of the house was not living, as divorce was against his values. As joint spokesperson, my mother declared that my divorce was the price we pay for coming to America. In a way, that is true. Here our family tree suffered irrevocable mutations. I may have amputated mine by divorcing, but I rebel against having to abandon my heritage as punishment. I refuse to disappear, as Google search results and cultural norms indicate should be my path. Instead, powered by reimagined Western values, I created a new family life with blended norms. In the divorce, we leave behind our marriage, but preserve elements of an Indian American family. For example, my ex-husband and I attend Diwali parties as a family, co-host our children's birthday parties, and plan family vacations to Disney World, sleeping in adjacent hotel rooms. Our approach is both Indian and American. And she finishes, one day as we opened a box of wall hangings in my new home, my father said, things obviously got better by then, that while he doesn't believe in divorce, he patted me on the back and added, "But I support you." In that moment, my family ties dream finally materialised. Reaching over the marital plaques, we grabbed for school photos and Krishna images to hang on the blank walls that will house my new life. And if you've got family and community who've basically ostracised you because of your divorce, hopefully they will come round in time. And in the meantime, we'll be your family. The Metro is talking about Katie Price, of course. Katie Price insists she did nothing wrong to end the Peter Andre marriage. Happened a long time ago, but they're still talking about it. Their split sent shockwaves, according to the Metro, around the world of showbiz, as fans had watched their love blossom after they met and fell in love on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. They have been co-parenting their 2 children, son, who's now Junior, who's now 15, and daughter Princess 13. Since their divorce, Katie has remarried twice and is currently dating former Love Island star Carl Woods, while Pete, 48, is happily married to NHS doctor wife Emily. Needless to say, both have moved on from their whirlwind relationship, but Katie doesn't have closure on one aspect of their split. Katie, 42, opened up about the divorce while speaking to Dame Esther Rantzen and Adrian Mills on their That's Afterlife podcast. Dame Esther said, according to The Sun, "I think you and Pete actually split, right? So do you want to know why I think that was?" The former glamour model replied, "Yeah, I'd love to know. I want to know. I never did anything wrong." I wish people wouldn't always assume they've done something wrong anyway. But delving further into her analysis, Dame Esther continued, "That reality show was quite damaging. It got into your relationship and it made you look so dominant and it made him look so gentle. And you know how it is with television. The viewers always like the underdog, and it began to look as if Pete was in love with you and trying to do what you wanted and nothing was quite right for you." Katie responded, "I totally agree, especially towards the end. But the way I look at it is it happened. You can't change the past, but it's been a horrific journey since then. I'm still here. I didn't actually push the button to commit suicide. That's why I went to get help, and I will never ever let anyone or anything around me ever get me in that state again." Pete has never divulged the reason for their split, and previously she previously said he would never make the details public. Good man. Katie then revealed her plans to marry boyfriend Carl, 31, now that her divorce from third husband Kieran Hayler has been finalised. The former Loose Woman host described her previous marriages as rehearsals and insists her union with Carl will be the real deal. "He doesn't put up with any rubbish from me, puts me in my place and doesn't need me for nothing. He has his own thing going on," she said. And I think that's actually a good advice with a new partner. You don't want someone who needs you. You want someone who's independent, ideally. And good luck, Katie, with this one. We're now ready for our interview with expert Rosalind Sedacca. And welcome, Rosalind.
Thank you. It's so good to see you again.
Brilliant. Coming through loud and clear. Excellent. And you run and creator of the Child Centred Divorce Network. Just for anyone who hasn't already met you, just let us know what that is.
Yes, the Child Centred Divorce Network is international, and we focus on helping parents make the best decisions on behalf of their children before, during, and long after divorce. And we do that through personal coaching and ebooks and e-courses and programs, and lots of information on the website, so parents get the support they need and feel that they are able to comfortably put their children first and give the children the opportunity to grow up with the very best outcome possible.
Perfect. And you've got some really good advice for us today, haven't you? For parents who are co-parenting.
Yes, we're going to talk today about two crucial gifts that every parent should be giving their children when they're children of divorce.
Excellent. Well, can we hear the first one? Give us the first one.
Yes. So the first gift is letting your children love both parents. And we all know that when you're divorcing, you may not be very enamored with your soon-to-be ex or your former spouse. And you may have lots of justifiable reasons to be angry and resentful and hurt and all the rest of that. And it's very easy for us to let our drama fall into the hands of our children, turning them into confidants, which is really not a good thing for them emotionally or psychologically. And asking our children to spy on the other parent and giving you information which makes the children feel very torn and very guilty and pressured. And there's so much pressure that comes on children regardless of their ages. So the gift you're giving them is letting them love both parents. And that means being happy to see the other parent when they're visiting the other parent, when they're spending time with the other parent, allowing them to talk about things that happened or they did, or letting the other parent call them and express their love and affection. You have to remember that your divorce is between you and your former spouse, but your children didn't divorce their other parent. And in most cases, children love both parents and want to be able to love both parents. So let them do that without guilt, without shame, without blame. And that is such a gift because it makes life easier for them. Children are going through so much. They have so many challenges in adapting to the unknown and the new and things that are different in their life. But the one thing that should be solid is the fact that their parents are still their parents and they are free to love their parents and be able to express that love without feeling bad about themselves.
And it's beautifully put, Rosalind, and it's something that's so easy to forget, though, as a parent. And what kind of ways could people remind themselves? Should they kind of get fridge magnets they should put up, or are there any tricks to help them remember? Because I used to rely on the children reminding me some of the time, which is not great.
Yes. You know, put yourself in your child's shoes and see the world and see the divorce through their eyes, and it makes it a lot easier for you to understand that their children are always victims. They're always innocent. The children, even if you've been fighting about the children, they're never to blame for your divorce. And so we have to remind ourselves that these kids that we love deserve more, and they just want to be able to love their parents and not feel bad when they're talking about the other parents. So be there mindfully, encourage them, say something nice about, oh, how wonderful, I'm so glad dad or mom did that. And that was very thoughtful of them. And show some support, even if you're not feeling it. And then vent to your friends, vent to your coach, but not to the children. Let the children enjoy the innocence of childhood. And childhood is difficult enough during a divorce and after a divorce without putting adult burdens on them. So if we put ourselves in their shoes, then we can look them in the eyes and see the innocence of whatever age they are. It helps us remember that they deserve to feel loved by both parents.
Brilliant. And what's the second tip?
So the second gift that you want to give your children is the gift of having both parents be able to love them. And that means allowing the other parent to interact with your child. As much as you may not respect that other parent, as much as you may disagree with some of the things they're doing, especially if it's parenting things, you want the child to be able to feel the love that the other parent has for them, as well as your love. So the more you could communicate, and when you talk to your co-parent, use us language and we language and talk about the kids. Don't talk about you, because your co-parent may not care at all about how you feel about anything. But if you talk about little Johnny, little Susie, and speak about their needs and how much you love them, and knowing that the two of you do what we can do for them together, it gets the conversation back on track in the right direction, and it helps put your perspective in the right place. Because the one thing you have in common at this point is loving those children. If it wasn't for the children, you would have nothing to do with one another after the divorce. But you're going to be co-parents for the rest of your life. And sometimes it's hard when you're looking at a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old or even a 15-year-old to imagine that they're going to be grown adults, but they're going to hold you accountable for how you handle the divorce and the co-parenting and the experience that those children had all those years. And so give them the opportunity to feel the love and the blessing of having both parents there for them. They can love their parents could love them. Those are two gifts that they deserve, and it helps them psychologically and emotionally to move ahead and cope with challenges ahead in their life.
Your cat wants some attention. He said he's making a right old racket in the background. He doesn't like you not paying him any attention.
Sorry about that.
No, not at all. It's be nice if he comes and scream. We can all see him then. So that's brilliant advice, Rosalind. Do you feel that creating a co-parenting plan, and really where they think about this and they make some joint decisions with the help of a support, for example, someone like yourself as an expert who can effectively kind of mediate and help them come to the areas of agreement, shall we say, that gives them a useful structure?
It is good to create as much of an agreement as you can beforehand, because there are things that you can agree about and you can understand how obvious they are and how simple they are. If you show respect to your co-parent, they're more likely to show respect back to you. So pick your battles. Don't micromanage the other co-parent's life and reality with the kids. It's frustrating. You may not agree about discipline or nutrition or a lot of the things they're doing, but be mindful of the fact that you're both leading independent lives, and at the same time, you're both caring for children that you really love. So use that time wisely to really talk about issues related to the kids. And a great question to ask yourself is, would I still be making this parenting decision if we were still married? So if you're changing your decision because you're divorced and you want to get back at your ex and hurt them, and you know this is going to really put a wrench in their lives, then that's not good co-parenting, and it's not good for your kids. If you're making co-parenting decisions that are what you would always have done, and because they're sound as a parent, then that's a healthy way to parent. It's a healthy way to co-parent, and your children will appreciate that and thank you when they're grown adults for the way you handled the divorce. And that's the greatest outcome at all that we could expect.
And that's a great question to ask, isn't it? Would I have done this if we were together? Would I have made these decisions? Because you can find yourself basically using the children as weapons to manipulate, and it can happen subconsciously without deliberately meaning to. So that's a great way to catch ourselves out and say, oh, actually I wouldn't do that if we were together, and realise that there's something else going on. It's that awareness, isn't it, that we have to create.
Yes, awareness is really the key. Bringing awareness and mindfulness to every decision we make. What are the consequences, and how is that going to impact my children today, 5 years from now, and decades from now? Because adult children of divorce bear the wounds and the scars of divorce done wrong, and we don't want that to happen. We have choices now, and reach out for help and support whenever you need it, because you'll appreciate it and feel so much better that you made sound decisions that are really in the children's best interest.
That's brilliant advice. Thank you so much, Rosalind. And you're going to, of course, when I send you the links later, put more information on in the comments so people can link through and find out all the kids about the divorce.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, great one. So brilliant. Thank you so much, and I look forward to having you back on the show at a later date.
Always a pleasure talking with you.
Bye-bye, Rosalind.
Bye-bye.
That was the lovely Rosalind Sedacca, who is an amazing co-parenting and parenting expert. And look out for her links in the comments of the videos a bit later on, where you can get a free ebook. So definitely worth having. So a little bit of learning now in our masterclass. We are now going to be having a look at, we're almost through, we're into the last section of the mammoth divorce discovery voyage, which is like a divorce masterclass, which you can find in the app, the Best Way to Divorce app. And we're on to the introduction of, on this journey, we're in the area of calm seas, which is around the children. We're very parenting orientated in this show today. And the last one is about togetherness. And within that, we're looking at, I will just give a little introduction before we get into the nitty-gritty in future weeks. So in the introduction, I talk about about laying strong foundations for healthy co-parenting through divorce and separation. This is time well spent. So exactly what we've just been talking about with Rosalind. And most of it's just a case of getting some good information and learning to think before you act. So damage limitation is sometimes the best we can hope for when things are really bad. And during the good times, we can actually begin to allow our families to extend beyond the boundaries of what we once thought possible. I suspect we might have an example of that in our shared story coming up soon. Now, the conflict between parents does not have to get out of hand. So you can learn quite easy ways to avoid conflict. So one of the biggest excuses, so I'm going to sound a little bit harsh for a minute, but stay with me, is people sometimes say to me, my ex is unreasonable, or we can't communicate. But the fact is, none of us is at our best when going through family separation. So when people have a strong emotional reaction to each other, or just don't physically live in the same space anymore, then they need to learn new ways to keep the communication flowing. So a good thing to do is to create a strong parenting plan. You can talk to parenting experts like Rosalind, who can help you, mediators, or you can access templates. I've got some in the Best Way to Divorce app. Got a Split Smart, create your own parenting plan. There's some great resources there. So you've got no excuse, right? It's all there for you, and this will help you lay a good framework. There's online calendars that allow parents to organise the children without having to actually speak to each other. Again, you'll find those in the Best Way to Divorce app. And most of all, you now have the opportunity to grow up. A difficult ex can only be totally destructive if you react and don't learn ways to reduce the conflict. This is a fantastic personal development opportunity. So my advice is to make the most of it. Our shared story today is we've got Tom back in the yellow chair. He's quite a regular. He's got another great story for us coming up in a minute. And here we are, Tom, and welcome to the show again in your lovely bright, I love the colour of your chair. So what story? You've got an Easter story for us today, haven't you?
I have. It was purely by default, not by design. And it all kind of very nicely, not knowing who your other guests were today, follows on from Rosalind and from also what you were just saying. My point actually today, and kind of where it ties into stories, is around what I call kind of ego versus empathy. Obviously, both of those are actually conscious choices of how you choose to bring yourself to a situation. And a lot of it, for me and my experience and part of my stories I'm about to share, is learning how to step out of your own way, stop being your own obstacle, stop creating some of the situations that can arise yourself from your own reactions, and rather than responses. the story kind of that I wanted to give, or the example, was actually going back about 3 and a bit years. So it would have been Easter, or just pre-Easter, 2018, and it was when we were first getting into, I suppose, first getting used to the alternate years of having a 1 Easter on, 1 Easter off sort of thing, with our co-parenting schedule. And as my ex-wife is actually Italian, her parents are, and for her, she's not particularly devout Catholic, but there are certain traditions that she has and keeps, and one of them is Good Friday and Christmas Eve is not eating meat, and it was something that she had asked me about. And this is where I came from ego, and I created my own obstacle. I consciously or otherwise chose to create a mountain out of a molehill, and dug my heels in, and actually said, no, the boys can choose. If they choose, if that's what they want to do, if that's what they believe, and I really dug my heels in. This actually then kind of carried on a bit further from there, when she was then asking around the boys going for Holy Communions and things like that through the church. I'm not particularly religious myself, but of course she was, and it was, I suppose, just a case of me wanting to have that little win again, and like Rosalind said earlier, picking your battles. I wanted to win. I wanted to be the one that was right and dig my heels and improve my point. And just like Rosalind was saying earlier, and what you were saying a few moments ago, that whole my point about ego versus empathy, when I took a few moments to step back and stop thinking about my own perspective, and in some respects even not even seeing my co-parents' perspective, but actually the boys' perspective, my question that I started asking myself was, well, who actually loses out here? Not who wins, but who's actually losing out? And in short, it was the boys, because actually they both really love fish. I mean, it's kind of irrelevant, but I mean, you see my point. Like, the point was that they both actually really loved that day, and it's something they actually look forward to. So when I stopped kind of creating my own obstacles and getting in my own way just to prove a point for my own win that was actually causing losses to other people, it really shifted and it really changed. And then we fast forward to today as a prime example, like I said, purely by default, not by design. Kids were at their mum's. They were looking forward to their fish Friday, as they call it, but they were here this morning. So myself, my partner's 2 children, so my stepkids, all of us agreed no one in the house has any fish, because it's not fair on the boys, because they're not having fish today. We've gone and done the drop off earlier to my ex-wife's house. We've ended up having dinner, staying and having dinner with her. My girlfriend's actually still around there now. I'm going to go pick her up afterwards. But then I start to ask myself the question, in this scenario, of not creating the obstacle myself, and actually coming from a place of empathy and not ego. Now I can ask myself, well, who wins? And like Rosalind was saying earlier, it's the children, but more than that, it's also the parents and the adults, because now our stress levels are reduced, our anxieties are calmed down, our tempers are turned down, and actually we can actually get on and create a safer, more supporting, more loving environment for our kids.
It's a win-win for everybody, isn't it? But it's getting over that hump, which is, and as we both know how difficult that can be. So I love the positive stories that you give, because it's have you ever found, because I've when I've told positive stories like that, sometimes people have said, oh, that's really lovely, but it's a bit weird. Have you ever had that experience? I mean, I've had it more than once, and they weren't being mean, they just thought it was odd, and I'm like, no, I think actually that should be the norm. What it's odd that, you know, you love someone, you had children with them, whatever goes on, it's a bit odd if you just are then continually at war with them forever. That to me doesn't make sense at all. What's your experience been?
No, that's exactly. I was going to say the exact same thing, almost word for word. There isn't it weirder to be at odds and to be at war with each other? In actual fact, surely the idea of actually changing that situation, actually trying to change the perception and society's view of actually how they think it should be. I had a client once before that was saying around how a family member had been leading all of the battles for them on email in those earlier days, because they knew better, and that I remember telling me this, and they were saying about how their sibling had said to him, no, when the parents split up, dad gets every other weekend, and that's all they get, and that's the way it is. It's just the way things are. Well, why? It doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be. Actual fact, it's about breaking the mold and doing things differently, and that's, I suppose, where anything comes from, doesn't it? Change and innovation. doing things differently to do it better, and create a better environment.
And I think it is important that people are aware that there is this kind of subliminal social pressure against it. And if you're anyone's experiencing that, just know that both Tom and I have experienced it, and lots of people have experienced it. It is actually quite normal. And bless them, they'll my finding was, and I'm sure you find this now, people think it's great once they've got used to it, and they congratulate you, but not always at the beginning. So just if you're in that experience, anyone watching, don't worry, just carry on doing the right thing. Let everyone else catch up in their own time. That's a lovely Easter story. Thank you so much, Tom, and hope to have you see you again soon. Have a lovely Easter. Bye. Great story. I do love these positive stories. If you have a positive story, put it in the comments, come on the show and share it. We need more of them. We don't want to just hear the negative, scary ones, especially the ones we get in the press. So, the Best Way to Divorce app, that is the URL, bestwaytodivorce.online, will take you straight there. You can use it on any phone, computer, and it's a brilliant resource with support groups and workshops and co-parenting resources. So as I mentioned earlier, there's Split Smart, there's Our Family Wizard, which Brad Pitt's using apparently, and great resources for you to help you, even if you've got a very difficult parent. In fact, all the more reason to use these resources. They're perfectly designed for difficult parents, and that'll be your children, as Rosalind says, will thank you for it. And just a little quote from someone who came to one of our divorce financial workshops. Got another one coming up in June. You can register, just go there. You can find out all about it through the Best Way to Divorce app. The workshop allowed me to see the problems other people are having, which made me think, I need to know that too. And I love that. That was by Dominic, because you don't know when, especially if you've never divorced before, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you need to know. And it's actually not just, so you don't even know what questions to ask sometimes. But when you're in a group, they'll all come up, and we cover so much in those 2 hours anyway. So you will get a lot of fantastic information and be able to make much more sensible decisions going forwards. Now, our healing today is the lovely Debbie Talalay. If you use that QR code, and you'll see it on the next on a slide where she's doing the healing as well, you go through and you can access her free videos around her theta based, it's called the Stanford process. It's her own process. It's very powerful. She can do all kinds of things, including if you're traumatized from a abusive relationship right through to empty nest syndrome because the kids have gone off to university. It's an amazing process. So find out more about it. But what she's going to do for us today is a healing. We've got a recorded version today, but she will be live in the next workshop that I'm doing in April, which is full up. So too bad if you haven't got into that one. But hopefully you're going to really enjoy this healing. So deep breath, relax, and enjoy.
And if everyone would please close their eyes, and I'm going to put each one of us under a shower of universal love so that you can be washed down, cleaned down, inside and out. And feel that shower on you. And now we're going to imagine a white light sword that is going to come through the top of your head, your top chakra. And this white light is going to regenerate all your chakras as it goes down through you. So let's start with the very top chakra. And this is your spiritual chakra, purple, Om. And let this light regenerate it. Make sure that the color is true, that it's spinning correctly around this white light. And then when you feel that it's been regenerated enough, let the light just move down to the next chakra, which is your third eye, and which is a dark blue. And let that regenerate. Needs to be spinning nicely, not all over the place. Good color, a true color. and let the white light make it into a true color. And then the light goes further down into your throat, and this chakra is for peace, and it is a light blue. And see that spinning. And feel the peace that it generates. Going further down, the light is going to enter your heart, and this chakra is green. And further down to your solar plexus, which is your power, your connection with others. And this is gold. And let it go further into your abdomen. And the next chakra is orange, and that is for relationships. Let it spin. And now further down to your base chakra, which is red. And make sure that red is a nice true red. No dingy spots, no dark places in it. And see that it spins correctly. And now the light is going to go through you and out and start pooling around your feet. And it's going to become a large puddle. And as it comes through you even more, it's going to develop into a lake. And even more, it's going to go as far as the eye can see. And whatever is in that pathway is going to be converted to the light. So all the dark little bits and pieces can be converted to the light. And now we're going to take our bazookas out, our mental bazookas out, and aim them at the dark cloud hovering above your head. And see that black cloud shatter and splinter and leave you. And what is there in its stead? And we'll take the bazooka again and aim it at the black cloud behind the small of your back and see that evaporate. And now we are going to peel ourselves like a grape of the things that encompass us and are at tight bonds around us. So we will start off with betrayal. Let us peel ourselves of betrayal. And again, peel yourself of anger. And peel yourself of despair. And how about fear? Fear of the future. Fear what's going to happen now. And how about hatred? Peel yourself off. And I'm sure you can all think of one or two that you might be carrying. Would you do that for yourselves now? Okay. Right, we are now going to reconnect ourselves with the Creator. So taking the energy from your heart up through the top of your head and send it out to the Creator. And the Creator is going to send back to you the Creator's energy through the top of your head, down through all the chakras to the base, and then back up to the heart. Breathe it in. And we're going to do the same to our souls, taking the energy from the heart up through the top of the head and off to the soul. And then from the soul, back to you, down through from the top of your head to the base chakra and back up to the heart. Breathe it in. And now repeat 3 times. I reclaim my power. I reclaim my power. I reclaim my power. And we're going to put as the last thing the shamanic circles of protections around us. So 7 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Breathe them all in, and when you're ready, open your eyes. Thank you.
Oh, loved it. Hopefully next time we'll get her in person. So, for those of you on Clubhouse, I'm Susie Miller. I've done talking, except for one thing. In the war of divorce, on the battlefield of family separation, always, always make peace your weapon of choice.